Hey everybody, Doug with Beer Money. We're with Donnie Bauer. We started this project last weekend in Bowling Green. He's taking the time to explain to the people who want to know how the sled actually operates. So yeah, you're going to see the green sled in some of the video. You'll see the orange sled in some of the video. We weren't able to finish, so we're here today. It's Friday after Bowling Green, and Donnie's going to take us through everything on how an Ironman sled actually works. Take it away.
So pulling sled's actually a very interesting piece. Lots of things happening in a very short period of time. We have two systems on the sled. We have a system that makes the sled so that it's self-propelled, and the other system is actually what runs the weight box through a series of clutches and transmissions and everything, differentials. We'll walk through that very briefly, but I want to make sure that everybody gets the idea of kind of how it works. So our front axle right here is actually the axle that is operating the weight box. So from this axle, there's a drive shaft that runs back to a transmission and a air clutch and a differential that actually drives the weight box forward. I guess we can, if you want, we can get up there and get a close-up and kind of explain and point. So the front differential has the drive shaft here that goes back to a serrated air clutch. And this clutch is designed to be put into gear under full load, which basically on a pulling sled means is if the box is full and for some reason, maybe somebody takes off or whatever the case may be, we could throw it in gear under full load with the box loaded and it will go in. It's going to make a racket because it is a serrated clutch, but it will grab and it will start to run the box forward. So very important to have a clutch that does not slip on a pulling sled. That if the clutch would slip, you would be cheating the competitor. Actually, the competitor would be cheating the sled because the box would not be coming up the rail as fast as it should be. So,
and you have the ability to change gears too.
In our ProFab transmission, it is a 5-speed transmission, and we can very easily, it's as simple as coming up here, we're in neutral right now, and let's just say we're gonna choose this gear, and let's just say in second gear, and we want to quick change gears and make a fast change on the fly on the track. We can come up here and just as simple as this, we've just gained 20 feet, meaning we've just taken 20 feet out of the run. So it's as simple as that.
So that's what a sled change is.
That's a sled change in a very short,
right,
descriptive manner. But yeah, you can figure if you add a brick, depending on sled conditions, a brick or a weight is about 20 feet. Depending on sled conditions, a gear can be 20 feet. It just depends on how your track is and everything. And from there, we go back to a differential that has two sprockets welded on it that actually drive this roller chain. And the roller chain is hooked to the weight box. And that's what brings the weight box forward. Second part of the sled is what makes it self-propelled. People are always interested to know that. And that is our back axle. Our back axle is for driving the sled around solely. That's what gets you from point A to point B in pretty good time, actually. Right. So from there, again, we have a drive shaft that comes from the rear of the sled It actually goes through an automatic transmission, which is up in here.
Oh, is that an Allison?
It is. Allison automatic transmission, and we belt drive that off the back of a Deutz free air, fan air, however you want to say it.
Just for the point of cooling.
Right. And the awesome thing about using Deutz engines is they don't care if you pull power off the front or the back. They're not fussy. And a big advantage is not having to worry about coolant.
Right.
You know, that's a huge plus.
So explain to people how an air conditioner works on an air-cooled engine.
Well, no different than
I guess it would be heat.
Right.
That comes from the oil. So.
Right. No, to get it to heat, yeah, that's kind of a problem. So pulling in the wintertime, it gets a little chilly in there. But anyway.
So is this a truck rear end then that drives the box?
This is like a SQHD rear end narrowed way up that drives the box. It's out of a truck, dump truck. And I guess backing up, the axles that we choose to use on the sled are 2-speed Eaton axles, like what you would use in an older grain truck.
Yep.
You know, a 5 and a 2 where it had the 2-speed axle. That's the choice. They work very, very well for us.
I'm just wondering, is this really a Peterbilt?
Yeah. It's actually got Peterbilt air ride suspension under it. It does. And Peterbilt wheels.
Gotcha.
So it's
Do
as
you
close
need the
to
suspension, or you got that for just going on the road?
the suspension is for going down the road, and that only, because when you're in the sled, we let the air out of the bags, and then it becomes a rigid piece. The axles do not move. They're solid to the frame. And that is done by tightening up these axle cables right here. There's cables right here that run back to each axle, and then we've got this cylinder right here that will pull this mechanism tight, so your cables will tighten up. So, and that helps so that when you get down on the big end, so to speak, you have the weight of the axles working with the sled, more weight for stopping.
So it's not momentum that causes the wheels to come up. You're actually physically pulling the wheels off the ground.
We are pulling the wheels off the ground because we have the axles sucked up tight to the frame, and it's all one unit then. So the axles do not move. So let's see, starting out with the box rolled back, and I don't know, do you want to roll the box back?
People know where the box
All
is
right,
back.
so what the box is back here, this is what they call your balance point. So we can do several different things with this. If we put weight in the back of the box or have the box rolled all the way back, we have a series of holes in the frame. We can also block the box forward. So I tend to use this analogy that from this point to the back is our counterbalance area. So we can make that pan as light or as heavy as we would like in order for the pulling vehicle to pick it up or not, or to create drawbar. And so what we do is...
So when the pan comes up, it's doing two things. You're getting the sled to roll, and you're putting pull on the vehicle.
Right. So the reason for that would be, in our counterbalance area, we can adjust for the very different type of pulling vehicles. You can run a 2,000-pound antique tractor, or you can run a 10,000 horsepower unlimited mod. And obviously there's going to be quite a different setting for a 2,000-pound tractor versus that big mod. So that's why we have all the holes in the frame rail and the ability to do some different things as far as trying to get the pan heavy or light. So as you're starting your run, or your pass or your lap, however you want to classify it as. Box is at the back, and when that box comes past this balance point, now we have all of a sudden all the weight that's in the box coming to the very front of the pan, and whatever vehicle is hooking, you can say that everything is on the drawbar on the front of the pan or on your hook. So let's just say that maybe that's 50 to 75 feet, maybe even 100 feet.
Okay.
Every ounce of weight that's coming forward with the box is going to transition
Transfer.
through the drawbar and your hook on your pulling vehicle until a specific point in time where we decide to trip the pan. And we can explain how that works. So as the box is coming down the rails, we have a trigger switch here. We call this the pan drop switch. And what it does is it relaxes the back of the pan on the ground, and it starts in motion, everything slowing down. So as the box is coming up the rails, there's a catch underneath the weight box that will grab this switch and it will push it forward, and the pan will relax on the ground. The sled changes, we have this trigger switch here for our pan drop, as we had explained before, and this is adjustable. We can be get enough cord here, we can put that, we can drop the pan when the box gets here, or we can slide this thing all the way to the front and we can drop the pan up there, depending on how our track conditions are and the vehicles. So you have 6 feet to play with, and that switch there is basically for dialing in it would be the fine tuning of the sled change. So now there's under this pan there's a specific pattern with what they call grouser bars. And the grouser bars everybody says, well, they come out of the bottom of the pan. They do not. On our sleds, the grouser bars are bolted or welded to the bottom of the pan and are there all the time. There's nothing that comes out of the bottom of the pan.
There are sleds that do that, though,
There
correct?
are sleds out there. There are manufacturers that have them on a hydraulic system, and they do come out of the bottom of the pan, but our specific sleds do not. They are there, they're rigid. There's no possible way to mess with them. That's just the way it is. So the bars don't touch the track until that trigger switch has been tripped. Then the box continues down the rails, and basically we need to back up, because when that pan goes on the ground, we are going to start losing drawbar, because now the weight, rather than all the weight being on our hook, we now have let this free, and now we've got weight back here also. So that is what you call your transition area, because you're taking weight off of your tongue and you're putting it on the back of the pan to start slowing your vehicle
Because
down.
if you look at the pan, your pivot point is not at center, correct?
Correct.
You're behind center on that. So
Correct.
when it drops, it tips.
Correct. You're correct. So now your box is continuing on your rail. It's tripped your pan, and now it's up here. We're still giving them drawbar, but in this not as much.
Right.
Because we're trying now, at this point, we're trying to slow them down, right? And now what we have transitioned from that being our pivot point, the front axle, to this pin now becomes the pivot point right there. So once the weight box goes past that pivot point, it's actually taking weight off the back end, putting it on the front end, and trying to drive the nose of the pan into the dirt. So until the box gets up to this point right here, which this bar, if I can move it, that bar moves, the box hits this bar, and it does a few different things. It takes the air clutch out of gear, which releases the drive line so we don't break our box chains, and it also operates our push down. So now the push down is back here. So when the box is all the way
Topped
forward,
out.
all the way forward, and the drive line is out of gear, we now have what you call a push down, and that's this here. So when that goes off, and I'll simulate that, it tries to pick the back of the sled up, basically is what it does. If there would be weight in the front of the box, it would pick the axles and back of the sled completely off the ground. Now you have every ounce of weight available pushing the pan into the ground. And that's what finishes the stopping. That's what gets you.
And that could be at 280 or it could be at 320,
and
depending
it's all
on the
adjustable.
class.
People ask if there's a way for us to mess with the puller, and our sleds are built so that if we touch anything in the cab while we're going down the track, there is a relay hook to every possible switch that we can switch that turns the red light on. There's no way for the sled operator to favor, cheat anything or anybody at any time on this particular sled.
It's good information to know.
Yeah, because it does happen where people accuse us of giving an advantage to somebody, and it's just not possible. It's just not possible. We're going to simulate a run. Normally, when everything's set, you have this would all be lit up. There's your air clutch. There's your pan trip and your pan push down. This one here would be as if I had the rear end in gear so that it's ready to go. We'll have all green lights. We won't have any reds. In order to simulate this, I'm going to have to do some different things. But at any rate, we're going to simulate a run, and I'm going to use the box drive to do it. So as we're going down the track, the box is going, and the pan's going to trip, which it did, and then we're going to hit our push down, and the clutch is going to come out of gear. Okay, so now we're at the end of a run, and everything's stopped. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our box drive, and we're going to put that in gear, and we're going to use our automatic transmission that makes the sled self-propel to pull the box back. Okay, and show them that the box is coming back. All right, I'm gonna stop it and then show you. We're going to also hit another switch to reset the pan and reset our push down, and then you're going to have the green lights are going to come on. Then we're doing this all simultaneously as the box is coming back, correct? And we get the box back all the way back under the cab, and you take your box drive out of gear, and you got your pan wheels. Put your pan wheels down, and you can then, your wheels are on the ground, you'll be able to steer. Now we're going to take our back differential, like we talked about before, and put that into gear, and now we're going to use our transmission, our Allison transmission, to make it self-propel.
So you have to push the brakes to put it in gear?
No, the brakes, I just do just because we didn't want to move.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then it steers just like a car, you know, same way. It just don't steer very far. Right? And then we got reverse and we got forward. We can go anywhere we want to go with the sled.
So your that toggle switch runs multiple functions then.
Yep, the toggle switch runs multiple functions. Yep.
Our door went down.
Oh, that's what happened.
Is that the old Jesus button?
That is one of them. So this button here, when it's pushed, puts air to the braking system on the box, and the caliper that is on the shaft, the shaft that drives the box forward. Because there's a brake here, and then there's a brake on the box. Brake. Yeah. Well, this brake here, if the chains aren't broke, this will stop the box. If the chains break, then there's a set of brakes up on the box too.
Okay. That's what the air hose is for?
Yep. That's what that coil air hose is for.
And where's your kill switch?
The kill switch is this button here, and if it was hooked to a vehicle, you'd tap that, and that'll pull their guillotine.
So is that hooked up to a reel or something?
It is hooked up to a starter motor.
Okay.
And basically, you know how fast the starter motor cranks? Well, you just bump that button, and that'll wind that cable right up just like in half a second. So that's basically it. And then you got switches right here. We can operate our mud flaps hydraulically.
Nice.
That's pretty much the short and long of it.
Are you set up to do GPS in here too?
Oh, we are. We do have a GPS antenna over in the corner of the cab, so we can, if we can. I don't know if it's going to work in the trees.
It's going.
So you get to an end of a run, and when it stops, and there's your readout. There's your readout, 30.29 feet. And if you want to go to the next one, or you can go to recall. Whoops. I'm not too good at this. Oh, I guess I didn't record it. But anyway, we can also read back. We can read going backwards too. So we can stage it. There you go. So we can measure going forward or backward. It doesn't care.
what's your total amount of weight you can put on this additional?
So you can the sled weighs about 36,000, and then you've got 15 weights times 2,000 a piece that you can put.
Additional 30.
Yep, you got it. You can put a weight on each side of the pan, and you can fill your box. And then there's one that's available to put up in the front in the nose.
Do you carry 15 with you all the time?
As far as going down the road, we can't carry that much weight. The most weight you can carry on the truck plus the sled is about 9 or 10. So if we need 15, we have to have somebody else carry some weight.
And then what is your total weight calculation with a full sled, the pan, everything, with the physics or however it works? What's the total weight worth of resistance on a
So if
stacked sled?
You take your 15 weights. If the sled is completely full, you take your 15 weights plus your 36,000 and multiply that by 600%. And that will give you the number that you're going to come up with for resistance.
Cool.
Dead weight pulling.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I wish I had my calculator out so I could
We can
figure
figure it
that
out,
out real quick. Because I don't know that number off the top of my head.
So what, 66,000 times 600.
Well, do we need to redesign the sleds? Are the sleds capable of stopping the unlimited mods? The answer is yes. The sled has the capability to stop an unlimited mod in less than 300 feet. But the problem with that is that it gets so hard on the puller's equipment that we would rather run the 340, 350, 360 footage and try to save the pulling vehicle.
Like a gradual stop instead of
an abrupt stop. Because with things happening as fast as they happen as you're going down the track, it upsets the tractor so bad if you try to do it in 250 or 300 feet. It's a lot easier on the vehicle to go an extra 50, 75 feet. And I guess I might add, speed is a big concern of a lot of people's nowadays. And I've always said that if you take the sled and you run up to 32 miles an hour and you have your sled set for 320, we generally don't have a problem. But you go for every mile an hour over 32, it takes you another 10 feet to get the vehicle stopped with the same weight in the sled. It's just 32 seems to be that magic number. If we could hang right there, it's a manageable thing. But
and how often do you get over 32?
When you get on a 350-foot track, you can be up as high as 36.
So now you're looking at 400 feet to get stopped.
Exactly. Or we got to get a little rougher on the pulling vehicle. Do I think that we need a redesign? No. But I'm going to say that I'll allude to the fact that there's some things in the works that we're hoping to try. But the biggest game changer has been the tires. The pullers have the technology in the tires in the last 5 years has just been unbelievable. And I don't believe that the tire manufacturers are done yet. I think there's some more for them to be had. More technology to be had out of tires. So I don't think at this point it's smart to redesign a sled when we're only halfway through where we're going to end up.
But it's just like everything else. It's one's going to get ahead of the other, and it's a never-ending process.
Right. And then once they get the tires figured out, or they're maxed out on technology on tires, well, then it's going to be a problem with the rear ends.
Well, that already is an issue.
And it is. And that's what we're trying to save is puller's breakage. And that's why some of the runs get a little long, and some of the promoters do like those long runs. Some of them don't.
Right.
Some of them like pull-offs. Some of them don't. We try to accommodate
What's your feeling on pull-offs?
you know, we were in Bowling Green last weekend, and I thought the pro stock class that we had the other night was absolutely awesome. We had, what was it?
4 made the pull off.
4 made
Yep.
the pull off, but how many vehicles?
38. There was 38 in the class.
38 in the class, and 4 made the pull off. I don't see a problem with that. I know some of the competitors don't like that, but watching the crowd's reaction was just, it was fun.
But is that something that should be at the region level? Maybe just run the floating finish, and the big shows have the, 'cause sometimes you do have enough time to get back and cool off a little bit.
In a class that's that big, other than if you happen to be the last guy in the class and make the pull off, which in
I think
VG,
wasn't Russ Yoder the last track, or
and
close
he
to
did,
it,
he had to come back hot, but
and he won.
it was I think that at the regional level and state level pulling, I would rather see him just run a float and finish, you know, and those guys maybe don't quite have the budget that the
Right.
Grand National guys do. So, you know, I don't see that it being an issue at all. But I think when you have a big class, the crowd really gets into it.
Right. Yeah, it was fun.
There was nobody left their seat that night,
Right.
other than maybe to go use the restroom. It was amazing. And that's what makes it fun, is to see the crowd into it that much.
Right.
I mean, that makes it all worth it. So,
All right, everybody. Well, again, Donnie Bauer with the Ironman sled. He took his time out of his day to hopefully explain to people how a sled operates. So we thank you.
well, maybe someday we can do a podcast where they can call in and do questions, and we can actually
Good idea.
answer specific
Sounds like a
questions.
good winter project.
There you go.
All right.
At the end of the day, if the sled and operator have done their job, we have everybody stopped around 320 feet. Everybody's happy. And just remember that I always have to win.